Thanks for remaining tuned to Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Let's now turn our attention to another issue, which is the recent Q1 of 2025 GDP report and rebasing by Nigeria's National Bureau of Statistics. We have here with us Professor Ken Ife, development economist and economic policy expert. Many thanks for joining us, Prof.
Thank you for having me.
You don't look like the economy.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, how do you mean? The growth rate seems impressive. 3.13%.
Correct.
Correct. But what puzzles me is that we are fourth or fifth largest economy in Africa. We used to be number one.
Fifth.
How did that happen?
No, you see, when we come into the discussion proper, first of all, Nigeria is still the largest economy. If you look at purchasing power, GDP purchasing power parity, it is 1.28 trillion. But the thing is that when you come to GDP standard classification, they always have a deflator. So this is your GDP. You have to divide it by the exchange rate. So that exchange rate has punished you.
Oh. Because
if you look at the GDP they told you today is 370, but when you divide it by 1,530, it comes to about 248 billion. But if you were to use the exchange rate of 2023, when the new administration was sworn in, at 500, then it will be 3 times that, 750 billion.
Ooh.
So it is that deflator that actually makes things look horrible.
All right, Prof. When I said you don't look like the economy, this headline is why I said that. One of the dailies this morning says, rebasing, Nigeria's GDP hits 372.82 trillion naira as poverty rate worsens. Could you help me understand what that means?
We are measuring different things. The connection between poverty and GDP is only from one area. There are four pillars to measure GDP. One is household consumption. 2 is government consumption. And government is always borrowing, so their consumption will always continue to be high. Then you have investment, where you are talking about private sector making investment. Then the final one is balance of payment, which has become positive. It was from negative to positive because of removal of fuel subsidy. So those are the 4 points. So when you talk about poverty worsening, you are connecting it to the household side of things. That these are the people that are taking that hit. It doesn't affect that much the overall thing.
So how does this figure impact the man on the street?
The man on the street is the poverty, and then the household.
So does it mean as these numbers continue to improve, the man on the street will continue to become poorer?
It doesn't say that, because it could reverse. January next year, when your tax reform kicks in, that figure will change dramatically for the man on the street. Because the law will now remove VAT on buying energy, buying his hospital services, education, food. So they're going to have more disposable income, and they can buy more. So that output, aggregate demand will go up, GDP goes up. And then consequently on the 42 million MSMEs, they will have more money to keep because it's moved threshold 25 million to 50 million. So there will be more investment, they will protect jobs, and then aggregate output will go up. So GDP will begin to jump in January because of all this. And then all the big borrowing government wants to make will be coming in at the same time. So you're going to see, bumping up of GDP figures.
Yes, the growth rate, I'm trying to get it out. It's 3.13.
Yeah.
Am I correct that? And the drivers basically...
Actually 3.3, go on.
Yes. Drivers are basically non-oil. Non-oil...
The key driver. But oil has been contributing. Okay. Growth. Oil has been contributing to growth in the last 1 year and a half, 2 years, yeah. But not anywhere near the
non-oil sector.
The non-oil sector.
I'm just wondering, the non-oil sector, giving us, the huge chunk of growth and all that, what has happened in that area?
No, what has happened is that there are many things. When you say non-oil sector, you're talking about solid minerals are going up now.
Yes.
Because you could see the figures really jumping up. You've seen ICT, you've seen trade, you've seen construction jump. In this rebasing, construction has like jumped threefold to 10.78%. We used to see it around 3%, 2%. It is good because they've now recognized other forms of construction of household and all of that that were not picked up in this. So that's going up. So all of those quantities, and of course crop production is high. It's about 17.858%. So all of those quantities keep going up. And crude was terrible at some point. Crude is only, crude and gas, only 5.85%. There are times when it used to be 5%. And then even though being 5% of the economy, but posting negative growth. It has been negative growth for years. And only just now that it has become positive because of the increase in the barrels of crude being produced.
At 1.6
no,
to
1.6 to 1.8. It used to be 1 million. You know, for many years, it used to 1,800,000. Now it's 1.6, 1.8, and it's moving.
yeah,
It's
it's still below the benchmark.
No, it's yes. The benchmark says 2 million.
2 million.
Yeah, but they're getting there. I think when you add condensate, they're getting there. They're making tremendous progress. But the price is also very important because the price hasn't been what they thought it could be. And I criticized many times the benchmark of $75. It should never have been used as a benchmark. Now look at it, $75, and then the thing is about $60, $65, $68. It doesn't make sense because you are not allowing any headroom so that you can have accretion to foreign reserve and accretion to excess crude account. I mean, that is not good budgeting practice.
All right. From the figures, industry grew by 3.42%. I mean, a lot of people have clamored that the manufacturing sector needs to improve. Do you think that this is for real, or is this going to fizzle out in a short time?
No, industry has been, agriculture is even worse. Agriculture is 0.07%. For a population that grows at 3% and urbanization that grows at 4.6%, that is pathetic. We need to do something serious about agriculture because, you know, we are seeing starvation staring at everybody's face. And the Minister of Agriculture is doing his best. But we need to release resources. You know, that's not helpful. But the industry growth of 3.42% is actually better than what we have seen over the last 12 months. Industry has not been playing, and the contribution of industry to GDP has also come down a little bit from 27 to 22%. So, the growth is encouraging, but it could be better because that is where you require growth to cushion. Because if you forget the one, we are an import-dependent economy, and that is why all the problems in our country has persisted. For you to reverse that import dependence, you have to put more resources on value addition. That's where industries come. Industries will now breed. They make more money, they grow, because instead of importing fuel, you are refining fuel here. Instead of selling your solid mineral, you are refining them and selling them, getting 5 times more money. See what Ghana did. Ghana simply cut their gold. I want that gold, and then I want to put some on my bank reserve, but Ghana's currency has gone up by about 50%. It's just simple arithmetic. You go to almost $2 billion in solid minerals, in gold, in lithium, all of the Zamfara area, all that. Grab these metals, add value, and your reserve goes up, is stronger, is no longer dependent on all these things going on with dollar here and there. You get, and your exchange rate will come to where you want it to be. GDP now doubles, GDP now triples, because you've arrested where the leakage is, to make sure you get what you have and use it. Remember the last administration, they wanted to buy gold, all our gold, and send them to bank reserves. If we had done that, if we had used this 33 trillion that we created ways and means to buy those goods, we wouldn't be where we are today because we would have had a much, much stronger naira, and then your GDP would have remained extremely high in the region of 600-700 billion.
Talk to us about, let's even look at the parameters, break it down for us so that we can understand what's really happening, because there seems to be, some sort of joy, that the economy is growing and all that. So how is NBS calculating this now?
Okay, no, NBS actually done a brilliant work. You see, what you have what we call standard industry, standard international classification, industry classification. It's an international standard. And that standard has classifications there that can change over time. So what they have found out that when they applied it, some sectors, some subsectors were missing, and they captured them. Some of them were digital economic activities of some sort. Then even water transportation. They brought in inland waterways, NPA, Post Authority, NEMASA,
they were not there before.
Council. They were not captured. In statistical terms.
Yes.
Then you have Social Investment Trust Fund, huge amount of money. Then you have the pension fund, huge, almost 20 trillion right now. Then you also have informal sector activity increased from about 42% to 45%. So it's gone up. They're capturing more because the informal activities are around housing and even employer of labor. Domestic employers of labor, they've captured all that. So you can see the level of informal activity has gone up. So what has done is that they are now far more representative of the consumption pattern, of household consumption pattern, of what the MDA's return as what government is consuming, and all the investment. So it's a better way of representing the figure. But of course, we have had some increase, significant increase, compared to last year.
In all this capturing by the NBS and looking at the figures that you have before you, does it represent the reality, or do you think that these figures could be better managed, to show the reality on the streets?
I don't think it's about managing the data. It's about investing in the economy and creating the data is there to measure what is going on. The investment has to be directed where it will create jobs, where it will add value, where it will reduce our import. Look at China. We are doing 25 billion import from China.
My question actually is this data monitoring correctly? Are you sure?
No, the data monitoring is perfect. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Now, GDP has to be rebased, just like inflation, has to be rebased every 5 years. The last one we did was 2014, but the base year used was 2010 compared to 1990. So that ought to have happened and then that rebasing, the second one should have happened from 5 years after that. So it didn't happen until they chose 2019, because 2019 was the only regular year just before COVID came in. So choosing 2019 was important, and then that means you've moved the base year from 2010 to 2019. So when the rebasing was done in 2014, the economy showed out plus 59% increase. I predicted 60, but it was okay, because Ghana also came in at 60, 61. But now, with rebasing, the rebasing from 2010 base year to 2019 showed 41% increase, which is expected, because when you factor all these new sectors that have been picked up, and they're quite heavy in their contribution. So now going forward, you will now see the actual GDP as at that 2019 was 205 trillion. Now, year and year after that, the figures were going up to 213, 242, and then to today, 372 trillion. If you look which actually means $243 billion. It's an increase to what it was. The last GDP measurement was over 180 billion.
Precisely.
Is the $1 trillion?
Sorry, I was going to ask what this means really for the manufacturing sector. If the industry is also showing some improvement, the whole of this, what does it mean?
Now, the manufacturing sector, from the figures shown, it doesn't show it to be performing well, I'm afraid. First of all, if agriculture is coming in at 25% of your economy, industry is supposed to be much more than that 25%. It should be about 30, 35%. But after all, the raw material you are producing is supposed to be used for industrial production. The solid mineral is not even part of agriculture. It's supposed to add. The petroleum and crude and gas are not even part of agriculture. They're also supposed to add. So all of those activities ought to be much. Okay, American agriculture is only 4% of the population, 4% of their GDP. Not GDP, 4% of the activities are in total. But then here, you see, we're on 25%, but we can't feed ourselves. Because the growth rate is so pathetic, 0.07%. That doesn't add up.
Okay, because of time, we need to round off. Do you think the $1 trillion economy that has been projected, is possible? And you've spoken a lot about figures and all of that. I mean, just give some hope to the layman that, this poverty that we see would ease out shortly. No, it will. See, my bet is just wait for January. Because that reform, that fiscal reform is very, very important. And it is a game changer. It will affect these figures we are looking at from January. But what I have to say in relation to the $1 trillion economy, it's possible. But people should understand that Nigeria is a $1 trillion economy. Although we are number 5 on the normal measurement, but we have a GDP purchasing power parity of 1.28 trillion. That is what reflects the size of the economy. But the politics of GDP measurement is that you always have to deflate that figure by using the exchange rate. And the exchange rate has dropped threefold from 500 naira to $1 to 1,500. So if today you said, okay, for whatever reason, we're returning to that 500 naira to the GDP triples. It goes from 242 trillion to $700 billion. Triples immediately. So then that means that the rate at which you will need to grow to hit the 1 trillion will be around 8%. Again, which is still a tall order, but it just shows it is possible. So, but the rates have to come down as well as, and the rate can't come down unless you invest seriously on productive activities.
Professor Ken, I always like to listen to you because of you're very optimistic, and you have faith in this country. But let's quickly, in 60 seconds, if you may, what does all of this, talking about the non-oil sector, contribution to the rebased GDP, what does it mean for our efforts to diversify our economy?
Well, it still says the same thing we've been hearing for more than 20 years.
Oh, my God.
Yes, move away, focus. Okay, there are things to do, quick ones.
Yes.
Government should divest on the JVs. You have NNPC holding so many assets that can be divested, that can be private, that is huge assets. And then you've seen the proceeds of the proceeds of the subsidy. Only 50% of it was even available to the president to disburse. He gave a lot of it to governors, but the other 50% were trapped in NNPC. So make sure.
We need to have you back. But one thing is certain. Thank you, Prof. We need to have you back, I'm sure, within the year, of course, for other conversations. But definitely in January, like you have predicted, we're going to have you back. Just so that we'll find out if the economy has actually improved and the poverty has eased out. Many thanks, Professor Ken IFE, for being our guest. We do appreciate you and your insights on the program. So that's Good Morning Nigeria today.
I'm Claire Adelabu Abdurrazak. Thank you for watching.
I'm Yan Ray John. Live locked on the NTA.